Welcome back to Rebooking WWF 1992. It's episode 11. And it's actually been a little while since I've recorded an episode. And for the most part, it's just because I've been busy doing other things, mostly writing for WrestlingRecaps.com. I like to, sometimes when I get into writing mode, that's all I really want to do. But I would be lying if it was also not the morning of Shawn Michaels breaking his neck in this game, and he is out until May of 1993. We're going to have to just deal with it, and we're going to move on, pivot away from it, and see what we can do. Now, if you have been following this series, or if you're new to it, well, there's 10 other episodes I guess you could watch or listen to. Or maybe you've forgotten what we've been doing. Quite frankly, I may have forgotten where I was going with various things. I do have a notebook here of a few things that maybe will jog my memory. And as I go through the booking sheets for this week in the house shows, because we are going to be doing Superstars, the live event, challenge, and the live event. So we're going to do all four of these today. So there's quite a bit going on this episode. So just a refresher as to what is going on. The tag team title scene, LOD are the champions, and at the Royal Rumble, they retained the titles against the Nasty Boys in a street fight, which is like a rematch from SummerSlam. And they, I believe we are promoting the Beverly Brothers to be the next challengers for Saturday night's main event. The Intercontinental title scene is between Bret Hart, who's the champion, and Rick Martel. Bret Hart having defeated Martel at the Royal Rumble. And there's going to be a rematch between them at Saturday night's main event in a submissions match, which is why we had the borderline fluke win take place at the Royal Rumble to kind of set up that showdown. The WWF World title, which was won by Sid in the 30-man Royal Rumble for the title, which was vacant. And of course, Sid attacked Andre the Giant after winning that match. So that's naturally going to piss off Hogan. Sid is a heel, but the audience will probably still like him kind of regardless of that. Then some of the undercard feuds that we have going on. We have Flair and Piper feuding War of Words. You know, they've been doing house shows as well. Savage and Jake Roberts, we're just continuing that along. And of course, we have Papa Shango and Koko Beware having a feud where Shango has abducted Frankie the Bird. And Koko is kind of freaking out about that. And as I noted before, Shawn Michaels is in fact injured with a broken neck. He is out until May of 1993. We've had a few vignettes airing. The Patriot. His vignettes are primarily going to be on primetime. The Outlaws, which are John Layfield, Steve Armstrong, Tracy Smothers, and Bill Irwin. They are all, those vignettes are likely just going to be on our syndication shows, which would be Challenge and Superstars. Now, the reason behind that is the Patriot. I mean, I'm a fan of the Patriot. I've liked his look, the masked look. He's a muscular guy. And he can, kind of cut a promo, I guess. So with primetime, I guess the idea being, we could potentially make him into a bigger deal. That's kind of my mindset on it. Not to say that the Outlaws wouldn't be, but they would certainly be a tag team group or secondary wrestlers. The Patriot could potentially be, I don't want to say a main event guy, but he could potentially be like an upper mid card competitor for us, depending on how he gets over in the game, I guess. We've also had Men on a Mission. I don't even really remember if we had him debut or not, or had the group debut, I should say, not just him. There's two guys here. So if we go to our history, I don't think it would have been on this show. So Man on a Mission, regardless, they might have been on the house shows though, right? Did we not do that either? I thought maybe we had him do a live event. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm lying. Yeah, I guess we did not do that. Well, we're going to have them debut. Well, vignette wise. Yeah, so that. Yeah, okay, so we did not do that. So Men on a Mission will be having vignettes probably on one of these syndication shows. At least that's what I wrote down. So that's kind of like the main theme of what is going on. The Mountie on our game has been getting pretty good reactions for his heel persona, which is nice to see. As this is our roster here. Tatanka, every time that I want him to win, people have an issue with it. That's been the running theme here as well through the 10 episodes. I haven't added anybody to this roster because, quite frankly, I haven't even touched the game since the last time that I recorded. Now, you can see the background is a little different because I'm using the WWF skin. So I kind of liked like the lighter blue. And before it was like all blue. So I'm kind of glad that this is like black now so that you can actually see things a little bit better. They've definitely updated that. Now, speaking of updates, there's been two major updates to this game, which has got me pretty excited about kind of getting back into this. So the first one, you can talk to your workers directly. So let's say with the Hacksaw Jim Duggan, right? If I want to talk to him, here are the options that I can do. You can ask him to move to Connecticut, which I would imagine would cut down on expenses. You can ask him to get to know a worker better for whatever reason. You can ask him to change their job if he wants to retire, change the style of work, if they would, improve their physique or build, as it says here, gaining weight, losing weight, if they would like to use steroids, and permission if they would be okay to work a match or being booked with a certain wrestler. So there's all that. That's all the things that you can do. Now, I don't know if I'll really necessarily use that update, but there is an update that I will use, and I guess we'll just click like on a random show here, way in the future. How about that? That way, so let's just click on this one, right? So if you were to add a match, you can now do a pre, a main, and a post. So before you just had the main show. So now on these shows, you can do essentially dark matches, either be pre or post, which I think is fantastic because the way that I'm booking these superstars and challenge shows in primetime for that matter, a lot of them are enhancement matches. So if I were to do, let's say, three dark matches, they can be kind of like your house show quality level matches. Now the expenses will go up for sure, and it doesn't play a part into your overall show grade. But I think that's a nice little tidbit, a nice little update. So I didn't change anything for the 4 shows or the 2 TV shows on this episode because I figured why really alter anything. We might just start doing that in February. So with like the prime time, we won't worry about it. And then starting with the superstars on February 1st, we'll maybe start doing some dark matches and see how that plays out. And of course, that also plays for a risk of potential injuries. So there's risk reward to it. So, we just got to be kind of careful, I guess, about that. I'm not sure if we really talked about various news here. I know that I mentioned like Sting and Rick Rude getting pushes. Lex Luger had re-signed with WCW, so we weren't able to get him, and that was largely because I kind of forgot or didn't realize, for that matter, that that I would have like missed out on him pretty quickly if I didn't offer a contract like immediately. So we're just gonna have to deal with that. I don't think there's any other major news for the most part. Yeah, we knew about Terry Taylor getting, into fitness. So there's nothing really else to worry about. Our finances are looking pretty good. We've made 39 million so far. Our current amount of money is 51 million. So, and I think when I did the math for expenses, we're on pace to be profitable. It's certainly the Royal Rumble and the buy rates and pay-per-view money. That all played a major part. So it'll be interesting if, really March, I guess, we don't have a pay-per-view. Neither do we in February. So like in 92, we only have Rumble in January, Mania in April, SummerSlam in August, and Survivor Series in November. So we'll have to maybe figure something out for the non-pay-per-view months to maintain the flow of money. Whether that means more house shows or not, I don't know. But we'll have to see how that goes. So let's just get into it. Superstars, and then the house show, challenge and house show. And I'm sure as I go through these shows, stuff will come to my brain that I can explain the direction of where we're going here. So we're starting off this episode of Superstars with Virgil winning with a side Russian leg sweep against the Brooklyn Brawler in about 6 minutes. Just harmless showcase, I guess, for Virgil. Then we go to a promo with Jimmy Hart, and he is interviewed by Mean Gene, who wants to know who Hart plans on challenging the tag team titles. Now that the Nasty Boys lost, where do we go from there? Hart tells Gene that he has 3 teams to choose from. He knows the Nasty Boys were really close, and one more opportunity could get them over the top. The Natural Disasters are a bigger team than LOD, and would make LOD a potential underdog in a rare situation. But then at the end here, Hart notes that the third team, which is not known before, the contract is barely dry on the paper, but is confident that they would get what they want. Now, of course, Gene can be like, what are we talking about? You just have the Nasty Boys and the Disasters. What do you mean there's a third team? And as Jimmy Hart would have said third team, Gene would have been like exasperated, be like, what? And then Hart would continue on with the entire promo. So who is the third team? And the contract is barely dry. Does that mean that they are guaranteed that shot? If it's not the Nasty Boys and it's not the Disasters, who is it? And are they going to be thrilled about this? That would be important to pay attention to. Coco Beware is going to defeat Jason Knight in about 5 minutes with the Ghostbuster. And then afterwards, Papa Shango is going to continue to play mind games here, teasing a sacrifice of Frankie the Parrot, who is suggested to be under a black tarp. Shango finishes off by saying that Coco and Frankie will see the light of the Voodoo Master. So that's gonna be more so like a video package, like on the big screen as Coco's like walking backstage. You'd see the screen there, and then Shango displaying that, causing Coco to just freak out some more. The Beverly Brothers are gonna defeat the Bushwhackers in roughly 8 minutes when Blake pins Butch after the head spike. Basic continuation here of promoting the Beverly Brothers as a challenge to LOD for Saturday night's main event. And we're going to transition into the vignette that I mentioned before for Men on a Mission. Men on a Mission on the streets of Harlem, playing some fun rap music, talking about coming to the WWF and battling out with the tough competition in the World Wrestling Federation. The rap includes the names of several lower-level heel teams, such as the Beverly Brothers, Repo Man, and Berserker. Again, I mean, just introducing, making it very clear that they are a babyface team, Mabel and Mo, and that they'd be looking to dispose of the Beverlys, which was in reference because of the previous match. And then I just threw in a couple of random names like Repo Man and Berserker. I mean, Repo Man and Berserker could probably team up on a random house show to take on Men on a Mission, for instance. The Warlord defeating Reno Riggins in 5 minutes with the full Nelson submission. I guess that's easier for me to say. We've had Warlord lose quite a bit, so this is just a matter of like, hey, he can beat somebody. So whenever I have him on the show and he loses to somebody, it's not like, oh, it's just the Warlord. I mean, I don't think this is a waste of TV time by any means. It's just a matter of maybe giving Warlord a little bit of credibility that he's not a complete scrub against anybody. And then let's go into a Jake Roberts promo. He's talking with me and Gene. And he tells Gene that he has an idea for an equalizer for Elizabeth to make sure she's not a problem anymore in the WWF. We trust Roberts. All will be taken care of, and Liz won't be in danger for much longer. Who could be an equalizer? We're full of questions here in the WWF. And don't worry, I do know who it is, and it is not Dave Sullivan, who is known as the Equalizer. So don't worry. In our main event, I guess you could say we've had 2 feature matches, I guess. Beverly Brothers and the Bushwhackers, and then here with Ric Flair defeating Jimmy Superfly Snuka in about 7 minutes with the figure 4 leg lock. And clean, because, we're not renewing Snuka's contract. So he might as well just do the job for the bigger names that we're focusing on. So, and I feel like that's kind of a strong main event for a syndicated show. Snuka's got the name. Flair is a pretty entertaining heel. Kind of makes sense to me. All right, so let's see how this plays out. I'm not changing the venue because I feel like the last time I did that, nobody showed up to the show. So we'll just stick with whatever they kind of default give us. Capacity is 5,000. Cost is pretty cheap. They're saying we could have 20,000 fans. That's okay. And then our wages are just under $36,000. Yes, let's confirm that. All right. Negative half star. Good start for Virgil. Virgil's performance was a lot better than usual. I'm wondering if that is because of Brooklyn Brawler. Well, it probably is. Selling his skills was good. So Virgil lost popularity everywhere because he's not a good in-ring worker. Or no, I'm sorry, that's Brooklyn Brawler. I read that wrong. Brooklyn Brawler lost everything. Virgil did nothing. He's status quo there. 55%, 51% for score. Crowd reaction a little bit better than half. Jimmy Hart with a strong promo. 87%. Everybody got some kind of reference here. Yeah, that's good. They got improving everywhere. Coco Beware got a little bit of a bump. 54%, half a star. And then Papa Shango with a good one. The good looks at Papa Shango added to the story beat. Okay, so that looks like that's the story is helping out Papa Shango. Star and a half, 62% for the Beverly Brothers defeating the Bushwhackers. I'm just making sure there's no injuries here. Masterful in these situations. And I mean, again, I'm not a big Bushwhacker fan, so they're just kind of, I guess, going to be dealing with negatives for a substantial amount of time. Men on a Mission, 79%. That's I feel like a pretty good start there. 79%. All right. I'm not, I feel like that's a little higher than I thought it would be. Warlord. Nobody cares about the Warlord. So this is not a surprise. 49% negative. Full star. Jake Roberts with 81%. First promo on the equalizer towards Elizabeth. And then our main event, 1.5 star. Crowd loved it. Pretty strong. I kind of figured that would be the best match. And Flair got a nice little bump in all of our markets. So our total score is 70%. And we gained popularity in 4 markets, and we lost in 2. And I think that the 4 markets that we gained it in were not necessarily strong in. North America and Europe. I think when you look at the chart, that we're pretty high up there. Now that's our world tour. Yeah, so if you look at, if we undo all this. Yeah, so Europe, yeah, I mean, obviously we're way up there for North America and Europe. And we're building upon with our relatively new TV deals in the lower markets. So no harm there. All right, let's, yeah, so that's the show we just did. So now our next show is the live event. And I don't think we would know our TV stuff yet. All right, so let's go to our live event. And again, we're not changing where we're at, unless, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the same area every time, right? I hope not. Yeah, okay, so let's like Utah. So, okay, I'm just making sure that we're not getting screwed over. So, World Tour house show here. So we're going to start off with Men on a Mission, who we just got the vignette the previous day, defeating the Orient Express, which is Kato and Pat Tanaka, in about 12 minutes. A little bit of a longer match. As you can see, the Orient Express are not thrilled because they probably realize that they're getting shoved out the door, as Mabel and Mo are likely just taking one of their spots, even though they're a babyface team. Tatanka is going to defeat Dino Bravo in about 8 minutes. And, of course, Dino, not thrilled about losing to a relative newcomer. And then we're going to go to Sergeant Slaughter defeating Repo Man with the Cobra Clutch submission. As you can see, Tatanka won with the end of the trail. Mabel pinning Kato with a running splash in the corner. 8 minutes for Slaughter. IRS is going to defeat Virgil with the write-off, which is a clothesline, in about 8 minutes. The Natural Disasters are going to defeat the team of Jim Brunzell and Jim Powers following the earthquake splash on Brunzell in about 10 minutes. The Hart Brothers, which of course is Brett and Owen, are going to lose to Rick the Model Martel and the Mountie when the Mountie picks up the win for his team by hitting the pile driver on Owen while Brett brawled with Martel on the floor. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to kind of slowly build up the Mountie in some way here. And I didn't want like Martel to lose in an environment with Brett. So I figured if they were just brawling on the floor, then we can just have Mountie pin Owen. Owen's got enough in-ring skill where taking a loss in this environment isn't going to completely derail him. And he's not nearly an established name or anything at this point. So pretty, I feel like, easy booking decision there, where like kind of everybody is either protected or they're beneficial in their role, and no one's really hurt in any way here. Continue on. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase is going to send Big Boss Man Chest First into an exposed turnbuckle, and he's going to pick up the win in about 10 minutes. And in the main event, the Mega Powers are going to defeat the WWF World Champions Sid Justice and Jake the Snake Roberts in about 15 minutes when Savage pins Roberts following a top rope elbow drop. I feel like that's a pretty huge main event. I like this card overall. I was a little concerned maybe if I was going too heel heavy, but this feels pretty well rounded. There's the heels can't be losing all the time on house shows and whatnot. So I guess you could say it's a little bit of 50-50 booking on my end. But yeah, this feels like pretty well balanced show. So let's see how this plays out for the live audience. So of course, I kind of knew this was going to happen, where it's a long match. No one knows who Men on a Mission really are. Orient Express mean nothing. So we got a star, and the crowd reaction isn't all that high or anything, 45%. So maybe a bit of a dud to start off the show, crowd energy-wise. Then we go to Tatanka and Dino with a negative half star. Tatanka putting in a huge effort. A little bit of an increase of crowd care there. Sergeant Slaughter and Repo Man gets 60%, half a star. This is a bit surprising. I mean, negative half a star, 57%. I mean, I can't be too surprised. I mean, IRS is kind of boring in a singles role, so that should not be a surprise. Half a star for essentially a house show enhancement match for the Natural Disasters. I did this mainly because I guess I kind of like Brunzell and Powers, and I figured, instead of using the Bushwhackers or other teams, it doesn't hurt to get some of the enhancement guys on house shows. I don't see the harm in it. Wow, okay. Rick Martel's performance was much worse than usual. Meanwhile, the Mounties was better than usual. Okay, so that is interesting. I kind of thought this match would be a little bit better in terms of match quality. 2 stars, crowd not necessarily overly excited, 62%, so it's a little bit better than average. I knew the finish would hurt. We've seen that happen. Half a star, 73% for DiBiase and Bossman. And we got a dud of a main event. And I did tell them to take it easy. Fans were growing bored of the match. Wow. All right. 81%. So I feel like that's not a great show. 65%. All right. I guess that's a little bit of an underwhelming show there. All right, let's go to our mail. Let's see how we did here. So Superstars on Sky Sports had 256,000. We have 51,000 of income there. Our syndication, almost 3 million. Got a pretty good amount of income there. Almost 9 million. Internationally, 800,000. That's pretty good. We got 5,000 tickets. So we got 30, and we got a share of 33,000. All right. Not too bad. As you can see, we're kind of, North American wise, we're going down again. Steep decline. All right, what is this? As Smoky Mountain Wrestling offered a contract to Jeff Jones. I'm not going to really, I don't think I need to look at these. If you click on this, nothing happens. Okay, well, Sting and Luger had a match on Saturday night. As soon as I say that, they have a freaking meaningful match. Isn't that great? What did USWA do? Nothing, right? Yeah, okay. All right, let's get into the Wrestling Challenge. We're in Vermont, according to the game. We're going to start off with the Legion of Doom defeating Glenn Ruth and Peter Polanco in 5 minutes. Hawk pinning Polanco with a Doomsday device. Clearly, I spelled his name wrong in the finish there. It's Polanco. So I might have been just saying it wrong throughout that whole segment, but who really cares? The Outlaws vignette. It starts off in a bar where several people are all fighting. Some guys are thrown through the glass windows and over tables. When the dust settles, the Outlaws, consisting of John Hawk, Tracy Smothers, Steve Armstrong, and Bill Irwin, are seen walking out. John Hawk says that the so-called tough guys in the WWF better watch out because the Outlaws are bringing some toughness that the WWF has never seen before. So yes, the Outlaws are also a babyface group of guys. I think we're kind of heel heavy anyway in the WWF. So yeah, I don't mind having a surplus of baby faces. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to defeat the Berserker in about 5 minutes with the running clothesline. We then just transition into a Hogan and Sid video package. We've yet to hear from either man on TV since the Rumble, but this coming Primetime Wrestling, we will hear from the new WWF World Champion Sid Justice to make sense of his actions at the Royal Rumble. So that kind of gives us a purpose of watching Primetime, right? You know, hey, on Monday, if you want to hear from Sid, why did he do what he did? You got to watch Primetime. You know, and of course, we have quite a bit of time to fill before we get to WrestleMania, so we kind of have to slow build this progression. Papa Shango is going to defeat Louis Spicolli in about 5 minutes with the shoulder breaker. We then go into The Undertaker defeating Chris Kanyon, who better, in 5 minutes. He's going to hit the tombstone to pick up the win there. And I'm well aware that we haven't really done much with The Undertaker, but don't worry, that shall change soon enough because we do have plans for him. And then we go into a video package highlighting the recent happenings between Piper and Ric Flair. The narration asks who will back up their talk when it comes to a face-off between the two in the squared circle. As you can see, Wrestling Challenge is definitely being labeled as maybe the lower level in terms of like angle progressions. You know, I feel like using video packages to kind of fill that time and not prevent us from being able to like space things out isn't the worst thing to do. The British Bulldog is going to defeat Rex King in 5 minutes with a running power slam, and in the main event, kind of a bigger feature match here for syndication. Rick Martel defeats the Texas Tornado in about 8 minutes with the Quebec Crab forcing the submission. And as you remember, Texas Tornado had changed his wrestling style from a brawler to entertainment fairly recently. So, doing this, it has jogged my memory as to what has been going on. All right, so let's go into the show here. LOD getting the win. It gets a dud, but 64%. Ruth and Polaco have terrible chemistry as a tag team. I couldn't care less about that. 66% for the Outlaws. Now we have to handle the character changes because they are technically heels. John Layfield's success. Bill Irwin, a huge failure. Fantastic. All right. Now, do we have to do this? Yes, we do. That's a failure. And then that was a success. All right. So, 66%. The turn of John Layfield as babyface, hugely successful. The turn of Bill Irwin, not great. Not a surprise. I feel like he probably is a better heel anyway, but for the sake of our group, we'll have to deal with it. The gimmick change of Tracy Smothers, which I believe we just made into a cowboy, not great. And then the gimmick change of Steve Armstrong was good because, well, quite frankly, he is a cowboy. So there are no notes. Okay, so that's fine. 66%. We're just establishing them. This is not a horrible start here. Jim Duggan and the Berserker getting 67%, half a star. Not a big deal there. Nothing too much going on. 100% for the video package. So people are excited for primetime wrestling. Why, Sid? Why did you hit Andre? What is wrong with you, brother? We'll find out. on Monday night. Papa Shango, crowd could not care anymore about Papa Shango, it looks like. Spicoli takes a loss, but we get a little bit of an increase. So right now he gets 44%. But if we slowly get these numbers up, I think that this number will go higher. So productive. I'm looking at the positives here. The Undertaker and Canyon get a dud. 54%. Canyon putting in a huge effort because of course he would. 85% for the video package focusing on Flair and Piper. Everybody getting a little bit of a boost. Not bad. Rex King losing to the British Bulldog. 66%. 1 star. Bulldog getting a nice boost pretty much everywhere. And then the main event, 2 stars, 64%. Rick Martel losing in most markets, but going up in Asia and Latin America, while Texas Tornado took significant drops pretty much everywhere. And our show, 65%, and we gained popularity in 4 markets. This is basically the same result as from Superstars. And that's kind of like to be expected, I think, for our shows, right? And especially in this era, because I'm trying to keep it to the era where, we have maybe a couple of lower level feature matches and keeping it heavy on angle progression. So, I think if we be around 60 to 70 on TV shows, I think I can live with that. Especially on the syndication shows. Maybe primetime we would hope for a higher number because that is like our bigger show, I guess. That is like our A show. In terms, it's a 2-hour show, so we have a lot more to fill. So I'm not seeing it as like as a bad thing, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. All right, let's go to our final show, our final house show for this episode. They have us again in Vermont. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is going to defeat Skinner with the running clothesline in about 8 minutes. And Men on a Mission are once again in action, defeating Well Done when Mo pins Steve Dahl with a top rope splash. And of course, they're not happy about it. Superfly Jimmy Snuka is going to defeat Hercules in about 10 minutes with a splash off the top rope. The Bushwhackers are going to pick up a win against the Executioners in 12 minutes when Butch pins Gil following the battering ram. Boss Man is going to beat the Barbarian with the sidewalk slam in 8 minutes. The Undertaker takes care of Greg the Hammer Valentine in 7 minutes with a tombstone. The $1 Million Championship is on the line when Ted DiBiase makes Virgil submit to the $1 Million Dream. And in our main event, Ric Flair teams up with the Beverly Brothers to lose to the team of Roddy Piper and the Tag Team Champions Legion of Doom. Now, obviously, this is a significantly weaker show than the previous house show. And I think the reasoning that I had when I did this was I kind of wanted to develop an A crew and a B crew. Now, there's probably some crossover a little bit, especially if this is the first time I'm doing that. But as the main event is clearly different. I know DiBiase and Boss Man were on the previous show as well. But I didn't want to do the Mega Powers or something on every house show. I wanted to have some variety. And, I did some different things here. I have Snuka winning a match on a house show. Sure, it's against another guy that we're not renewing or anything. The Bushwhackers winning a match. And I'm well aware that 12 minutes is going to suck. I'm well aware of that. But quite frankly, I had to get some TV time. Or I had to fill the time for the show. And I didn't want to put another match on. Undertaker, this is just like, hey, special attraction. I can see the Undertaker be a random guy. You get your tombstone, and you just kind of you just go on with your day. I'm not expecting this to be a widely successful show in terms of crowd reaction. I do like the main event. Piper making Bo pass out of the sleeper hold. I mean, that is like the definition of how I book stuff. I want to have big matches like this and then protect it to where our main acts are not damaged at all. So you get the pop of Piper winning, but it's Bo. Flair has avoided any kind of, harm there in this match, in this market. And it's just something different. So let's see how this plays out in Vermont. We start with a dud, because of course we start off with a dud. Working with Skinner helped everyone learn in this segment. I don't know what that means. 59% for Duggan and Skinner. Of course, we get a dud. 43%, half a star. Oh, look at this. Okay, Mabel and Mo are getting better reactions, and they're riding a wave of momentum. This is their second match. We might be onto something here with Men on a Mission, folks. Obviously, the crowd reaction, I mean, that's a better reaction than they thought they would get. All right. Let's keep an eye on Men on a Mission here. Negative star for Snuka and Hercules. Snuka's explosive style impressed the crowd. Okay. Of course, I mean, I knew this was going to suck. Did anybody get hurt? I mean, 12 minutes, somebody might get hurt here. No, but they're all exhausted. I honestly thought that would be higher, and that kind of just proves my point that maybe nobody cares about the Bushwhackers. 63% for Bossman and the Barbarian. I think Bossman's getting over. 64% for Undertaker defeating Valentine. Negative half star for this title match. We did tell him to take it easy. I don't want these guys to get hurt. I don't want another Shawn Michaels. Wow, this is kind of disappointing. They got bored. All right, so if I tell them to take it easy, it looks like they get bored. That's disappointing. All right, 65%. That show was not great. 58%. That might be one of the lowest ones we've had. But I kind of knew that going into it, that was going to happen. All right, we got quite a bit of mail. Oh, great. That is just what we need to see. All right, so Wrestling Challenge, just under 3.8 million viewers. Another challenge, so that's about just over 8.3. 5,000 tickets there. All right. It looks like, let's see here. Yeah, we're still winning most of these. Yeah. Okay. Now, here we are. Marty Jannetty has failed another drug test here. I'm pretty sure this is another one for him. Of course, not any steroids, but he's definitely smoking pot and he's doing hard drugs. All right. We're going to talk calmly to him. Okay, good talk. I feel like that's very dismissive. I don't think he really cares. Jimmy Snuka is not doing steroids, which is surprising. If you look at his physical just appearance, you'd think he's doing it. Soft drugs, nothing, but he is doing hard drugs. We're going to talk calmly to Snuka. Don't get involved in my business. And this is why we're firing Jimmy Snuka. That's why we're not going to continue to have him involved in the WWF. If you're going to talk to me like that, I dealt with the Bulldog, okay? And I can deal with Bulldog because he's talented. And we've got investments in him. But Jimmy Snuka, I'll be damned. If you're gonna, I just had him win match. This is insane. Okay. Kerry Von Erich. Obviously, he's doing steroids. I mean, that's pretty obvious. Soft drugs. Our main issue is hard drugs. And I don't know. Let me, yeah, okay. So let's see. We've had Texas Tornado. How many times has he failed? Oh, that's his first failure. All right, so like Genetti's on 2. That's his second one. All right, so if we just go, let's go back to our mail here. Talk calmly, Carrie, don't do hard drugs. You're right. I'll cut it out. Thank you for being understanding. Dude, okay, now I'm writing this down. Maybe push Carrie. Nice guy. That is the type of response that we want. Yeah, boss. Hey, man. Sorry. Probably shouldn't have done that. All right. He's got to build my trust, but I think we can get there. He's a nice guy. All right. Let's look at our finances. We're at 46 million, 58 total. So we're not necessarily in danger of losing money, which is nice. All right. And then our next show here, I believe that this is a Madison Square Garden show. I don't want to click on it because I don't want you guys to see what I'm doing. Actually, our next show is Primetime Wrestling, if I could pay attention. So our next show is obviously Primetime Wrestling, where we're going to hear from Sid, the WWF World Champion, like, hey, man, why did you do that to Andre? That wasn't cool. Then we have our Garden show. So that will be our next recording, is these two. I feel like the Garden show is kind of maybe a big deal. You know, maybe. It's Madison Square Garden. We love the Garden. It's the WWF's backyard. And usually has a pretty big focus. So those are pretty big. Mel Phillips' contract will be expiring. And then after the Garden show, we should then see our merchandise sales and kind of get a good idea of what's going on there. Jimmy Snuka will be no longer under contract. And considering his reaction to how I talked to him about his drug use, good riddance. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to have him leave on a winning note against Hercules. So expect him to be probably on Primetime, losing to somebody of substance, because I'm not going to tolerate the blatant disrespect. It's just not going to happen. But, okay, that is going to wrap up episode 11. Hopefully I remembered everything that I needed to remember. And sorry that it's been literally like 2 months since I've recorded anything. I would sit here and say, I promise you that episode 12 won't take 2 months, but I'm not going to do that because, quite frankly, you never know. Who knows when the next episode will come out? And I believe I did say that in the beginning. I was like, hey, don't expect this to be on some kind of schedule. I'm going to do this when I feel like I'm having fun with it. So be sure to join us for episode 12 when we find out why Sid attacked Andre the Giant at the Royal Rumble, and then we head to Madison Square Garden. Can we fill out the joint? Will the New York crowd like the direction we're going in? There's only one way to find out, and that is to continue on with the rebooking of the WWF in 1992.